leaders who lead, success isn't measured in promises. It's measured in results. At Rockwell Automation, our 24,000 employees across the globe focus every day on delivering business results for our customers. Because with every result achieved, we realize the promise of expanding human possibilities. That's why we're Rockwell. Our customers make products and deliver solutions that touch all of our lives. And they partner with us to realize measurable, consistent, and profitable business outcomes, delivering the real results they and their customers depend on. The people of Rockwell and our vast production technology portfolio make a real difference in industrial production quality, speed, and efficiency, making a difference in ramping up adequate supplies of life-saving vaccines, making a difference by helping deliver vehicles that are affordable, efficient, and safe, making a difference by engineering sustainability into every system and solution we deliver. Because at Rockwell, we believe better is possible. And the results we deliver add value for our customers every day, in every industry we serve. Our systems connect your company end-to-end with data-fueled insights, improving the decisions that deliver results and expanding human possibilities. Rockwell Automation. Results achieved.
Hello and welcome to our live stream video today. I'm Juliana Ackerbloom and I am on the social media team here at Rockwell Automation. I'm here today to talk with you about our upcoming cybersecurity webinar series with Fortinet. Here with me today to give a sneak peek of the upcoming series is Vicki Bruce, Global Capability Manager, Network and Cybersecurity at Rockwell Automation, and Matt Bullock, Principal Technical Marketing Engineer from Fortinet. I'm thrilled to be joined by the both of them and excited for our conversation around cybersecurity. But before we get started, I have a question for our viewers. What is the most significant cybersecurity threat your organization faces, and how are you overcoming these obstacles? Jump into the comment section and let us know. All right, let's dive in. Vicki, my first question is for you. Why is the ICS OT community particularly vulnerable to cybersecurity threats, and how is this threat landscape evolving?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. So really, we see that OT communities are definitely vulnerable, but they're also so appealing to cyber criminals. And this really is due to three different factors. So the first one is that they have this legacy technology in place. So a lot of manufacturing environments, they might have an operating system that hasn't been patched or is no longer even supported. Or they might have a network that is using an older type of architecture or even older pieces of hardware built into that network too. So that legacy infrastructure and legacy technology becomes very critical. The second one is that in manufacturing environments, uptime rules everything. That high availability, having that ability to have things that are quickly available, and then they're also able to I'll say send information at a high speed. So that becomes very important. And then the third reason is around the fact that of these types of manufacturers, they're kind of like critical infrastructure. So I would say it is things like food and beverage, or it could be something like life sciences, where it's highly critical. We need things to be available really quickly. And then we also have things that are legacy infrastructure. So this makes it very vulnerable, but so appealing at the same time. Regarding your question around evolving threats that we see, so there's two things here that we're seeing come up. The first one is globalization. So this could be the case where in the past, maybe there's been attacks that are located more closely. So it could be something around proximity or physical location where someone comes to a facility, but instead what we see now is that an attack could be carried out from all the way across the world. So that becomes a little bit of a different threat landscape that we have in place. And then the second rising trend is around ransomware as a service. So in the past, people had this concept in their mind of like what an attacker was or a hacker was. It's someone who was sitting there, doing code, making sure that they were doing programming and like this super smart individual. But right now, what we see is ransomware as a service. So that means that someone who wants to be an attacker doesn't necessarily need to know code. They don't have to do any programming, don't have to write any scripts. Instead, they can purchase that and buy it. And now they're the ones who can orchestrate the attack using what someone else made.
That's really interesting. And to hear you share those three reasons, and really it shows how these OT communities become appealing targets. So, Matt, let's turn things over to you. What cybersecurity trends have you seen this year, and how are they impacting the ICS OT community?
Yeah, thanks, Juliana. And you guys might have noticed that Fortinet, we recently released our 2024 State of OT and Cybersecurity report. So it's a very timely question because we just created a survey and a study that actually dove into all of this. In that, we saw an increase across the board, really, in cybersecurity incidents in OT environments. But of particular interest, kind of piggybacking on one of the things Vicky was saying, is social engineering and phishing emails as a means of gaining access have really taken off. And that really opens up ICS environments to those less sophisticated novice attackers. So script kiddies, really ransomware as a service, as she was talking about. We're absolutely seeing that from all of the OT customers that we're dealing with. So we're also seeing a rise in sophisticated attacks as well. So don't think that you get off the hook if you're just protecting against phishing and email attacks and those types of things. We're seeing more sophisticated attacks as well once they're using those same techniques to get in the door. So that does go beyond ICS and an OT environment, but it's especially concerning when you talk about all of the critical infrastructure and safety concerns that you have in an OT ICS world with some of the legacy infrastructure and aging infrastructure that Vicky was just talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like these are really big issues that are affecting a ton of people. Vicky, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, taking a look kind of at the impact side of it. So manufacturers have identified that cyber risk is one of the leading external obstacles to growth. And this is only behind inflation and rising energy costs. So you can see that there's this theme of a financial impact. So we see this with cyber attacks in a few different ways. So it could definitely be unplanned downtime. So a situation where a production line is taken down unexpectedly or due to one of these attacks. But also it comes up that financial piece in ransomware, of course, where data or something else is locked down and it can be bought back for a price.
Yeah, those are some good points. And it really shows, that so many manufacturers are dealing with these cyber risks, as I said before. So, Matt, what do you consider to be the greatest vulnerabilities to today's industrial control systems?
Yeah, and I think Vicky kind of really alluded to this earlier on. I think the greatest vulnerability that we're seeing is an aging infrastructure, a shadow IT, OT infrastructure, and overall just not understanding everything that you have in your environment at the end of the day. What our customers are telling us is that while awareness of OT vulnerabilities is increasing, their ability to get their arms around all of the devices in their environment and really understand what their threat landscape looks like, it's still an uphill battle. Now you combine that with the desire to connect traditionally air-gapped infrastructure to the public cloud for monitoring and in many cases even ICS control in the cloud. And you have a perfect storm of vulnerable devices, that globalization that Vicky was alluding to. You really don't know about a lot of these devices, and you also have a backdoor, a way in the door from that public cloud infrastructure, which, by the way, the attackers just picked up all of the keys to the door through a successful phishing campaign. That's probably overall that lack of visibility is the number one thing that we're seeing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Vicky, do you have anything to expand on that?
Yeah, well, Matt brings up a great point about visibility. So sometimes we see this at some sites because of a complex network. It's hard to get across the complex network, the types of assets, trying to see everything. A bunch of different, I'll say, vendors or manufacturers have really come together to build out what is all in an environment. So a lot of third-party hardware to consider. But then there's also some cases where we see there's site acquisitions that happen. So a company will go through an acquisition, We see this in different industries like oil and gas, food and beverage, where now they have this plant and they don't know what's out there. They were never responsible for even putting it in. It doesn't match their standards. And where do we get started? So in that case, we really do find that a good place to start is exposure management. So understanding what that threat landscape is. And then once you understand the threat landscape, you can build the strategy and the plan and really start deciding which steps to take first.
Yeah, I agree with you that exposure management is a good place to start, so they can fully understand what the threat actually is and then go from there. So now, Vicky, why is having a unified risk-based cybersecurity program important? And what does that look like?
Yeah, I think one of the first places to start is really just understanding why OT cyber is different than IT cyber. So I think, a lot of us are familiar with that IT cyber piece. But on the OT side, it's a little bit different. And that's because there's different demands and different priorities on the OT side. So one of these is really around what is protected. On the OT side, we are trying to protect workers and assets, environmental recipes, data, all of these different things. On the IT side, what's highly important is a company's IP. So when it comes time to do contamination, on the IT side, that can be done pretty quickly. But on the OT side, that has to be done in a very specific manner to ensure that there's a clean shutdown, or it might be on an asset that is hard to shut down or to take offline. So all of these things mean that there's a different, I'll say, decision tree that goes into deciding what to do when there is a threat detected or when there is an incident on the OT side compared to on the IT side. So because of that, going back to your question around the exposed assets, is that some of this becomes a place where we have assets that need a different type of prioritized, weighted risk score when determining what to do. So this could be a crown jewel type of assessment. So if there is a cookie factory, then the oven, the mixer with raw ingredients, all these things, they need to have probably a little bit more prioritization than something like a palletizer or a packaging machine. So when building out a strategy and taking a look at all of these different factors that come together, that's really one of the areas that we find is important. So what we're looking at is this holistic approach to OT cybersecurity, and it should span across multiple disciplines. And we often kind of map that as defense in depth against the NIST framework. So that is the identify, protect, detect, and then respond and recover aspects of NIST, along with governance, which is policies and procedures really to ensure that consistency and that all those things are accounted for and in place.
Those are some good points you touched on, and it really shows that this holistic approach can be useful for manufacturers in many scenarios. So let's shift gears a little bit. Matt, can you tell us a little bit more about the upcoming webinar series?
Yeah, thanks, Vicky, or thanks, Juliana. This is something we're really excited about. Fortinet and Rockwell were really joining forces to put together a thought leadership webinar series, bringing together the strengths from our two companies, both in OT controls and cybersecurity. Starting on September 25th and continuing into October, we're going to discuss pressing issues for OT cybersecurity. We'll be hitting on topics you need to build a proactive cybersecurity strategy. For the first session, I'm co-hosting a session on the complexities that we see in OT cybersecurity on September 25th. The second session is going to focus on securing modern and legacy equipment on October 16th. And then finally, our last webinar will discuss the unified approach to cybersecurity on October 30th.
Wow, well, it sounds like this webinar series will be incredibly beneficial for many and will help tons of manufacturers as they tackle their cybersecurity challenges. So now let's talk. The talk of the town right now is Automation Fair, which will be taking place in Anaheim, California from November 18th to the 21st. I know there will be a cybersecurity booth on the expo show floor. Vicky, can you share some of what we can expect to see?
Yes, we are so excited about this event that's coming up at our Automation Fair. So in the past few years, we've had this OT cybersecurity booth, and we are having the same thing again, if you're familiar. But essentially, this is really meant to take all of these topics that we're discussing in webinars that we have highlighted and show them in real world. So we have a lot of demos set up. We have different insight sessions. We're going to be running actual mini presentations at our very own booth. We brought in all of our experts, walking people through different experiences that they may have. And then also, of course, really making sure that everyone has that core understanding of why is OT cyber important. what are some things that can be done and where to even get started. I know it can be an overwhelming topic and there's a lot of concerns that people have, but we're here to help demystify it and just help folks get started on their journey.
Yeah, well, this sounds great. And, attendees sure have a ton to look forward to. And I know that Fortinet will also be on the expo show floor. So while you're there, you can have a collaborative conversation with both Rockwell and Fortinet, where with the help of FortiGear, you can map out a cyber strategy on their magnetic FortiBoard. So tons to come there. And then, Matt, Vicki, thank you so much for joining me today and having a great conversation about what this new cybersecurity webinar series is going to look like, and tips for anybody struggling with cyber risks. And to our viewers, thank you for joining, and we will see you at the first webinar of this three-part series on September 25th.